retain confidence in his FEMA director and Secretary of Homeland Security?
Now again, David, I mean, see, this is where some people want to look at the blame game issue and finger point. We're focused on solving problems, and we're doing everything we can. We're doing everything we can in support of the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA, and we're going to continue. We appreciate the great effort that all of those at FEMA, including the head of FEMA, are doing to help the people in the region. And I'm just not going to engage in the blame game or finger pointing that you're trying to get me to engage in.
Not at all what I was asking.
Sure it is.
Well,
it's exactly
you
what
have
I'm trying to play.
Point you want to make about the blame game, which you said enough now. I'm asking you a direct question, which you're dodging. Does the President retain complete confidence in his Director of FEMA and Secretary of Homeland Security? Yes,
I just answered the question. And what you're doing is trying to engage in a game of finger pointing and blame game. What we're trying to do is solve problems, David, and that's where we're going to keep our focus.
So you're not answering. You won't answer that question directly.
I did. I just did.
Yes or no?
No, you want to.
Complete confidence or doesn't it?
No. If you want to continue to engage in finger pointing and blame gaming, that's fine. We're going to engage.
That's ridiculous. I'm not engaging in any of that. Don't try to accuse me of that. I'm asking you a direct question, and you should answer it. Does he retain complete confidence in his
like I said, exactly is what you're engaging in.
Yes or no?
Absolutely.
I'm not engaging in anything. I'm
absolutely.
asking a question about what the President
absolutely. We appreciate
substantial criticism of members of the administration. Okay, and you know that. Everybody watches.
No, everybody that watches this knows, David, that you're trying to engage in a blame game.
Well, a lot of people are already, I believe, think they've got the answers, and they're starting to point fingers. Coming up, the politicians are blaming each other over the response to Katrina.
There's lots of finger pointing going on.
Partisan blame game. Where are you in the blame game here?
I have never seen anything more grotesque than the politicizing of a catastrophe in the middle of the catastrophe.
Everyone reported back for work, and a lot of finger pointing resumed.
I don't like the blame game.
They are back to business in Washington, D.C., and you know what that means? Lots of bickering, lots of finger pointing, and this is just a little sound of it.
Finger pointer number one.
When I said to the President that he should fire Michael Brown, he said, why would I do that? I said, because of all that went wrong, with all that didn't go right last week. And he said, what didn't go right? Oblivious, in denial, dangerous.
Shrill. That's her.
Senator Hillary Clinton also critical, saying the Homeland Security Department has got to spin out FEMA and give it its own cabinet post, and essentially sounding like a presidential candidate herself a little bit early.
In closing, the head of the Republican National Committee said that both Pelosi and Harry Reid, the Senate Minority Leader, are effectively trying to point fingers in a shameless effort to tear the nation apart. Stevie D and Brian.
Every American kid should be required to watch videotape of the poor in New Orleans and see how they suffered because they couldn't get out of town. And then every teacher should tell the students, if you refuse to learn, if you refuse to work hard, if you become addicted, if you live a gangster life, you will be poor and powerless just like many of those in New Orleans. That's the truth.
And coming up, was New Orleans really denied vital federal dollars for state flood control projects? Well, why didn't local leaders, why didn't they do anything for decades even though they were warned? Putting aside, the levees weren't fixed, but we had 5 days notice to get these people out of there. Is that the Army Corps of Engineers' fault, or is that local representatives? Is that the mayor's fault? Is that the governor's fault?
The city of New Orleans had the buses to take the people who were poor from New Orleans to get them out of the city. They didn't use them. The governor had the power to declare an emergency, I think 4 days before she finally declared an emergency. She didn't use that power.
However much the federal government ends up paying for it, insuring it, sending in troops, you do need the local people to be the ones on the spot. All sorts of disasters can hit all over the nation.
I think there's a sense at the White House that the president has taken his hit. And now the blame is starting to spread to state and local officials. I mean, the ferocity with which the president was savaged right out of the gate, I think, turned a lot of people off.
The thing that bothers me the most, Mr. Speaker, is that for decades, the city and the state was warned. They knew for days that a Category 5 was headed there, and that nobody did anything knowing that there were all these weaknesses and vulnerabilities here.
And so now, the more time goes by, Steve, and the more we learn about the state and local response, we get into the specifics, the blame's starting to shift.
To the degree people were failed, they were failed by a city government that did not have and execute a plan to use the city buses which existed to help people get out.
We've been talking about this. Who would want to stay? You're surrounded by the swamp water would be a nice way of putting it, but toxic water filled with human debris, filled with toxins, filled with all this bacteria. Who'd want to stay other than people who are looting?
She has no idea whether her two little brothers survived this hurricane. So has FEMA been here?
No.
No.
We have yet to see them.
So nobody's brought in water or anything for you?
2 days ago, some volunteers from a church in Alabama came in. Yesterday, some people from Hattiesburg, Mississippi started coming in yesterday evening. The National Guard guys shared their MREs with some of us, which is awesome. And other than that...
Wow. Do you feel somewhat abandoned or left alone?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of breaks my heart to know that the federal agencies that they're hearing on the radio saying that they've got all this money and they're coming, they'll be there tomorrow, they're going to be here at 7, they're bringing places for y'all to stay, they're bringing hot meals, they're bringing this, and nobody's coming.
Nobody's coming.
Nobody's been here.
I just got stopped on the street with someone saying to me, where's our government? Where's our government?
Yeah.
Do you feel that way?
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's just totally ridiculous how this government has just washed their hands of us. They treating us like we yesterday trash, just throw us out. You know. If it wasn't for the Red Cross and these people in Birmingham bringing us stuff, we would not have anything. And the government still hasn't stepped in to do anything. And all they make us say is, my heart go out to you. We need more than your heart to go out to us. We need some help.
It would seemingly be impossible to recreate the mindset of the national politics of the year 1864. But consider the fact that in the middle of the Civil War, just after the capture of Atlanta, with victory as it proved no more than 5 months away, with only people in the northern states eligible to cast a ballot, with all that, 45% of all voters still voted against the Republican Abraham Lincoln and for the Democrat George McClellan. McClellan, whose campaign platform consisted entirely of promising to immediately end the war, let the South secede, and let slavery continue there. 45%, 1.8 million out of 4 million voters said yes to that. Our third story in the countdown. Well, maybe it isn't impossible to recreate the mindset of the national politics of the year 1864. The latest Gallup poll results are in. Only 10% of Democrats give the president a positive rating for his response to the hurricane, and only 10% of Republicans give the president a negative rating for his response to the hurricane.
As I was talking to the mayor in those areas, one of the things that you've got to figure out what to do with all of the debris. Are you getting a lot of that, Mr. Vice President? And it's the first time I've heard it. Turn to John, or never mind.